In the 7th year of my marriage to Wayun, I discovered he had a mistress. In their intimate moments, he said to that woman, "Get rid of the mother, keep the child. The one to go is Shen Yiluo, the lady of the house, and the one to stay is our own flesh and blood. Once everything's settled, Jir and I will bring you into the manor. That woman is my sworn enemy, and Jir is the adopted son I've raised with care." Wayun has forgotten that his current position as Grand General is all thanks to my scheming. He dares to humiliate me like this. I have plenty of ways to make him suffer eternal damnation. Back then, at my father's funeral, Wayun knelt before all the guests and begged to marry me. He said he could live without heirs, but not without Yiluo. He swore to heaven that he would treat me well and never take a concubine. Over these years, he has indeed been considerate and respectful toward me. Whether it was noble ladies chasing after him or beautiful maids in the manor, he never gave them a second glance. Even our adopted son Wei Wenji was brought back from the orphanage to protect me. I was confident I'd found a good man and never doubted him. Until, while I was praying at Shangyun Temple, a middle-aged woman burst in. She begged me to save her daughter. She said her daughter had fallen for Wayun, angered his lover, and was stripped naked and thrown into a brothel. "Madam, this commoner's daughter did do wrong, but please spare her life. In this world, this commoner only has this one child. No matter how bad she is still this commoner's lifeline." I was somewhat puzzled. Though my methods are ruthless, that is only toward strong enemies on the battlefield. I've never been so vicious to those flirtatious women who like Wayun. He suspected she had mistaken me for someone else. Who knew she'd give me a strange look and say, "There is no way I am mistaken. General Wei has a residence on Red Mountain Street, and my daughter Chunwan works there. She said the person she serves is Wayun's concubine, and that concubine is the daughter of a disgraced official." Then she told me about Wayun's promise to that woman. Her daughter had overheard it while carrying hot water for their baths. Chunwan thought, if even a disgraced official's daughter could become Wayun's legitimate wife, then although she was a maid, she came from a respectable family. What is wrong with trying to become a concubine? She tried. Then she was stripped naked by that concubine's people and thrown into a brothel. That concubine had bribed the madam to make Chunwan take at least 10 clients every day. That is why Chunwan's mother risked coming to me. After hearing all this, I fell silent. She was just an ordinary lower-class woman. She couldn't have made up Jier's name. Moreover, daughter of a disgraced official. A person came to mind. I sent the woman away to wait, promising to return her daughter in 2 days. After the woman left, I arranged for Shuang to investigate what was going on. Shuang is my personal maid. Back when I followed Wayun to the battlefield, she was already serving by my side. Investigating a mistress is no challenge for her at all. The next day, just after I finished breakfast, Shuang delivered the information she'd gathered right to me. As I flipped through the material Shuang brought, my expression grew worse and worse. What that woman said was all true. Wayun, who loved me like a treasure, really did keep a mistress on Hongshan Street. Or adopted son Wei Wenji is actually his and that mistress's biological child. My eyes gradually reddened. I injured my body and cannot bear children. Over a year after Wayun and I married, Wayun's clansmen suddenly came to pressure me into taking concubines for Wayun. Wayun had a huge fight with his clansmen for my sake, and to protect me, he brought home a newborn baby who'd been abandoned at an orphanage. He named the baby Wei Wenji, saying from then on, Wei Wenji would be his biological son, and everything he had would be inherited by Wei Wenji. After that, Wayun's clansmen never came to our door again. All of this used to be proof of Wayun's love for me. Now, it is all turned into needles, densely piercing into my heart. The woman Wayun keeps on Hongshan Street is called Yang Wanfu. If it weren't for the fact that Shuang personally investigated and delivered this information to me, I would never believe Wayun could fall in love with Yang Wanfu. At the same time, I could accept Wayun's mistress being any woman, but I cannot accept her being Yang Wanfu. Miss Shuang looked at me with a face full of worry. My hands were trembling. Shuang knew how much I hated Yang Wanfu. Back then, when Wayun and I returned to the capital victorious from battle, Yang Wanfu mingled among the crowds lining the streets to welcome us. She fell in love at first sight with Wayun on his tall horse. After returning home, she wrote a fragrant letter to Wayun, inviting him to view the lanterns together. Wayun ignored her, until when Wayun and I were boating on the lake, she came forward crying and questioning why Wayun didn't keep the appointment. That is when I learned about this matter. At that time, Wayun told her he already had someone in his heart, and asked her not to waste her time on him. Yang Wanfu, the only daughter of the Vice Minister of Rights, a pampered young lady raised in gold and jade since childhood. And I, though from a noble family, lost my mother at a young age, and with father devoted to his official duties, I grew up unrestrained, living as carefree as a wild grass. She couldn't accept her failure, and even less could she accept that she actually lost to me. Therefore, half a month later, she bribed bandits to stage a hero saves beauty scenario. She wanted to force Wayun to act, then press her body against his, using this to entangle herself with Wayun. She didn't know Wayun had caught a cold at the time, and was feeling dizzy and unsteady even while walking. I blocked the bandit as blade, meant for Wayun. That blade nearly took my life. I barely made it back from death's door, but because my womb was injured, I can never bear children again. Wayun went mad with hatred for Yang Wanfu. He said, "Failing to teach one's child is the father's fault." Then he worked tirelessly to collect evidence of Minister Yang's crimes and corruption, presented it to the emperor, and bribed censors to impeach him. In the end, the Yang family was sentenced to confiscation of property and exile. After doing all this, he grabbed my hand, eyes red, and said through gritted teeth, "If not for the embroidered uniform guard watching, I would have killed her with my own hands." Wayun never killed women or children. I believed he truly hated Yang Wanfu to the extreme back then. I never imagined he would keep Yang Wanfu as his mistress. Counting back to when Wei Wenji was born, I had just married Wayun for barely 3 months when Yang Wanfu already had his child in her belly. I hate him for betraying me. I hate him even more for betraying me for Yang Wanfu's sake. I've always given him my wholehearted devotion. I thought he felt the same way about me. Shuang pried open my fingers. In my palm were several bloody crescent marks, yet I felt no pain at all. What hurts is my heart. I refused to let go of the information Shuang had gathered, masochistically continuing to read on. According to Shuang's investigation, Wayun did indeed hate Yang Wanfu to the extreme at first. The day the Yang family was exiled, he disguised himself and followed them. He planned to find a forest and kill Yang Wanfu, but when they reached the forest before he could make his move, he saw Yang Wanfu being dragged by several escorting guards into the depths of the woods to commit indecent acts. Wayun could kill her to avenge me, but he couldn't bear to watch a woman suffer such humiliation, so he stepped in to help her. After that, worried that without his protection Yang Wanfu would be violated again, he simply followed them all the way, escorting the Yang family to their place of exile. Upon arrival, he learned that Yang Wanfu, such a beautiful noble lady from the capital, would be prey for men in a place like this. So he paid the local yamen a large sum of money to buy Yang Wanfu. He brought Yang Wanfu back to the capital and settled her on Hongshan Street. He left her a sum of money, telling Yang Wanfu to take care of herself. But Yang Wanfu had long seen through his disguise and recognized him as Wayun. She feigned illness to keep Wayun there, then drugged him and made him sleep with her. It was that very night that Yang Wanfu became pregnant. My heart felt like it was being cut by knives. That was just 2 months after Wayun and I got married. He sent back a letter saying he was going to track down a wanted criminal. That trip lasted over a month. I worried and feared for him at home for over a month, only to find out now that he wasn't tracking down any wanted criminal at all, but had gone to protect my enemy. Yang Wanfu was in poor health, and after becoming pregnant, her life was in danger several times. Wayun could only continue to care for her. Taking care of her, he developed feelings for her. Taking care of her, he lost his own heart. Wayun had given her an ultimatum. Once the child was born, he would send her away from the capital, never to meet again. But after Yang Wanfu gave birth to their son, he changed his tune, ordering Yang Wanfu not to appear before me, ordering her not to ask for status. Now, he tells Yang Wanfu that he wants to remove the mother and keep the child. Remove me, the legitimate wife and mistress of the household, and keep Yang Wanfu's child. Wayun is never one to speak without purpose. When he says, "Wait until everything is ready," he has likely already begun plotting to remove the mother and keep the child. The pain in my heart didn't make me lose my mind. Instead, it made my head even clearer. Wayun owes me a debt of gratitude. My father's former students hold significant positions in the court and among the people, and Wayun needs their support. Therefore, Wayun would never divorce me or agree to a separation. With trembling hands, I instructed Shuang, "Take my card and quietly go to Huichun Hall to fetch divine physician Jiang. Soon Shuiying returned with divine physician Jiang. After taking my pulse, divine physician, Jiang said with a grave expression, Madam has been poisoned with 1,000 days joy. What 1,000 days joy? Shuiying asked in shock. Divine physician Jiang said, 1,000 days joy isn't really a poison, it is actually a beneficial medicine. For patients who are melancholic and depressed, if this medicine is added when taking their medication, the effects are faster. But for someone who isn't ill, if they take this medicine day after 1,000 days, they will go mad and die. Who has such deep scheming to give Madam this drug? If I hadn't encountered a patient who went mad from taking 1,000 days joy years ago, I wouldn't have been able to tell today that Madam was poisoned. How long has my young lady been taking the drug? How can this 1,000 days joy be cured? Shuiying was so anxious, her eyes turned red. Divine physician Jiang said, judging from the pulse, Madam probably started taking 1,000 days joy about a year ago. This 1,000 days joy is not poison and needs no antidote. Simply stop taking it from now on. After seeing off divine physician Jiang, Shuiying said through gritted teeth, the general is truly heartless and ungrateful. Even if he no longer has feelings for young lady, doesn't he remember her kindness? I shook my head with a bitter smile. Compared to Shuiying's shock, I felt an absurd sense that I indeed understood Wayun very well. This person has always been like this. When he loved me to avenge me, he schemed exhaustively to have the Yang family's property confiscated and the family exiled. When he loved young Wanfu, to make room for young Wanfu as the legitimate wife, he tried to kill me, but he forgot that Wayun's success today relies on my planning for him. Back then he was just a minor vanguard on the battlefield. If I hadn't disguised myself as a military physician and strategized for him, how could he have continuously achieved military merits and risen through the ranks? Even later when we returned to the capital, I took a bandit blade that injured my womb. That blade was taken to save Wayun. If he no longer loves me, he can divorce me. He absolutely shouldn't have schemed against me and sent me to my death. He betrayed my love, and even more so, he betrayed my trust in him. The deep affection between us has now turned into molten iron and corrosive acid, pouring down on me. Beyond the pain, what I feel more is disgust. He also forgot that I am someone who always seeks revenge for even the smallest grievance back on the battlefield. When the enemy sent people to trample the wheat fields of our people, I burned down their granaries. Know that I know the truth. I naturally won't let this pair of cheating scum off the hook. Spring rain drizzled down, and the flower stumps newly planted in the yard last year were eagerly sprouting new buds, full of vitality. I stared at those flower stumps for a long while. A servant came to report that General Wei was busy with official duties today and wouldn't be coming back. For nearly a year now, he has always used official business as an excuse to stay out overnight. Before I worried he'd wear himself out at the office, so I had the kitchen prepare nourishing soup for him every day. Now I know he has been staying on Hongshan Street. He loves young Wanfu more and more. When young Wanfu got jealous, he promised her he'd never touch me again. He makes up all kinds of excuses to brush me off. Where I can't see, they're all lovey-dovey under the moon and flowers entangled passionately in their house on Hongshan Street. Wayun's heartlessness is even more hateful than the deceptive warmth of spring that turns cold again. I hummed in acknowledgement and made my decision. I went to the kitchen to prepare a bowl of sweet soup and personally carried it to Looming Courtyard. When I arrived, Wei Wenji was practicing writing characters from memory. He is 6 years old this year and has officially started his education. The teacher at the academy praises him for being quick and eager to learn, but doesn't know that I've been laying the foundation for him since he was 3. Putting in tremendous effort, Wayun and I are the loving father and strict mother in front of Wei Wenji. Therefore, compared to me, Wei Wenji is closer to Wayun. Seeing me come in, Wei Wenji straightened his back and wrote his characters even more earnestly. Jade, your father won't be coming home again tonight. Father is busy with official duties. Please don't be angry with him. With the spring rain comes another cold wave. Jade, after you finish practicing your characters, rest well. Mother will go to the government office to bring your father a thick cloak. Mother needn't trouble yourself. I heard father say last time that he left his thick cloak for when he is on duty at the office, and hasn't brought it back yet. All right then, I won't go. Wei Wenji visibly breathed a sigh of relief. A cold smile curved at the corner of my mouth. Wayun has a total of 6 thick cloaks. I've counted them, They're all at home. Wayun is covering for his father. It is clear he is not completely ignorant about the matter between Wei Xun and Yang Wanfu. These past 2 years, he hasn't been very close to me. I am afraid it is not because I am strict with him, but because he has learned that his birth mother is Yang Wanfu. I placed the sweet soup beside Wayun. Drink the sweet soup before you continue writing. When Wayun was given to me, his body was frail and weak, so I tried every means to nourish his body. He knew that I put good supplements in the food I gave him, and was also used to me giving him special meals, so he didn't suspect anything and drank the sweet soup clean. I turned and left, a sleepless night. I dreamed of laughing and talking with Wei Xun under the osmanthus tree in our youth. Osmanthus flowers falling rustling down. When my smiling lover suddenly became ferocious and drew his sword to kill me. In the dream, Wei Xun shouted at me, "If you are truly virtuous, you should make way for Wanfu." When I woke up, my back was covered in a thin layer of sweat. Dawn had already broken outside. I called Shuiying to light the lamps, and just as I finished changing clothes, hurried footsteps came from outside the door. The door creaked open and Wei Xun walked in. He was somewhat surprised to see me awake, but he quickly composed himself and said to me, "Yiluo, I finished work and slept at the office, thinking I'd come back before morning court to change clothes and see you. Haven't seen you for a day, I missed you. Busy day and night, I thought it was because you didn't want to see me," I said coldly. Wei Xun looked me over suspiciously. "Yiluo, are you angry? Shouldn't I be angry?" Wei Xun put on a placating expression to coax me. "Yiluo, it is my fault. Once I get through this busy period, I'll definitely make time to spend with you properly." I snorted coldly and said nothing. He turned around and asked Shuiying, "The nourishing soup the kitchen makes for Madam, does Madam drink it properly every day?" That Chanri Huan was being put into the nourishing soup that Wei Xun ordered the kitchen to make. "What the general ordered, Madam drinks it every day, not missing a single day," Shuiying said. Wei Xun didn't notice the mockery in Shuiying's eyes, and showed a satisfied expression. "Yiluo, that blade you blocked for me back then injured you too severely. You must take good care of yourself. Only then can I be at ease. I won't say more, I am heading out for morning court." After saying this, he couldn't wait to head outside. Just then, the head maid serving Wayun came to report with an anxious face. "General, Madam, something's wrong. Young master suddenly has a high fever and won't wake up no matter how we call him." Wei Xun immediately strode toward Luming Courtyard. I lifted my feet and followed. Upon arriving at Luming Courtyard, the lights were blazing bright. The maids and servants attending Wayun guarded his bed, not daring to breathe loudly, afraid of being blamed in anger. "Go fetch Physician Zhou," Wei Xun ordered the maid standing by the door. Then he had a servant take his official seal to request leave on his behalf soon. Physician Zhou arrived. He looked, listened, asked, and felt the pulse, finally shaking his head to indicate, "The pulse doesn't reveal any cause. Let's reduce the fever first." Of course he couldn't tell. The poison in the sweet soup was from a Giyu insect given to me by a Miao border scientist who had wandered to the northern lands when Wei Xun and I were fighting in the northern frontier. Let alone him. Even if divine physician Zhang came, he wouldn't be able to detect anything amiss. Physician Zhou prescribed medicine, had the maidservant brew it, and forced it down Wayun's throat. After a few hours, Wayun's body temperature returned to normal, but he still wouldn't wake up. "Perhaps he has been afflicted by something," Physician Zhou said, sweating. Wei Xun hurriedly went to fetch other physicians, even pulling strings to summon an imperial physician from the palace. Each one shook their head just like Physician Zhou. After seeing everyone off, Wei Xun looked at Wayun, then turned to me, his eyes filled with scrutiny. "Jer was perfectly fine. How did he suddenly become like this?" I sneered. "Perhaps I poisoned Jer." Wei Xun's expression turned ugly, his tone stiff. "Yiluo, Jer calls you mother, no matter what. You wouldn't poison a child, would you? If you don't think I am a poisonous woman, why ask me like this?" I looked at him sharply. "Or do you think I've treated him poorly in the past, making me look like someone who would harm him? Of course not. I am just worried about Jr asking casually. Yiluo, you've misunderstood me." Wei Xun's tone softened. I said, "Dr. Zhou said Jr was afflicted by something malevolent, but our general's manor is spotless and clean. Jr only goes between the manor and the academy every day. What could he have been afflicted by? I am afraid it is because his birth parents are full of evil deeds. and Jade is suffering on behalf of his parents. Wayun's face turned ashen at my words. Tomorrow, I'll go to Xiangyun Temple to pray for Jade's blessings. I deliberately sighed to him. The monk Hanyan at Xiangyun Temple has excellent medical skills and has cured many rare illnesses, but unfortunately we have a grudge against him, so he probably won't be willing to examine Jade. Which Hanyan? Wayun asked me. I curled the corner of my mouth. Have you forgotten, Minister? Yang had a close classmate named Zhongshu back then. After Zhongshu's wife and child died in an accident, he couldn't bear the blow and became a monk. The monk Hanyan at Xiangyun Temple is Zhongshu. You caused the Yang family to be raided and exiled. How could Hanyan be willing to save your adopted son? Upon hearing this, Wayun looked thoughtful. Before long, Wayun left the manor under the pretext of seeking famous physicians. I smiled. Wei Wenji is the biological son of Wayun and Yang Wanfu. Naturally, they have to save him. Later, Shuang told me that Wayun had ordered a carriage prepared and would take Yang Wanfu to Xiangyun Temple tomorrow. Miss said she would go to Xiangyun Temple tomorrow to pray for blessings. He is not afraid of bringing that person along and being caught by Miss. They've been together for nearly 7 years since I never suspected them. Their courage naturally grew bolder. On the second day, I spent a fortune to invite the abbot of Xiangyun Temple to preach Buddhism. In the meditation room separated by a wall, sat Yang Wanfu and Wayun. Shuang, timing it perfectly, burst in and said in a panic, "Miss, this servant saw the young master with a woman." My expression changed drastically. I apologized to the abbot, got up, and headed outside. I burst into the meditation room. Wayun and Yang Wanfu were shocked and alarmed. In their view, I should be at the main hall praying for Wei Wenji's blessings, not appearing in the meditation room. Wayun felt somewhat guilty, but seeing Yang Wanfu's eyes reddening with grievance, he suddenly gained courage and stepped forward to shield Yang Wanfu. I couldn't help but sneer. "Shen Yiluo," Wayun spoke up. He probably felt that since things had come to this, he might as well lay everything out. But before he could speak, someone appeared and interrupted him. "What is going on here?" Madam Chen, leading people with her, stepped inside and looked at Wayun with a frown. Madam Chen's husband was the current imperial censor and had once been my father's student. If Wayun dared to lay things out today, tomorrow a memorial impeaching him would be on the emperor's desk. Thus, the courage he had just mustered instantly dissipated. After his mind raced, he spoke. "Iluo, it is not what you think. She is now Chapter Qing's woman. Yesterday you said Master Hanyan might be able to save Jade. So I begged Chapter Qing to ask him to mediate between us and Master Hanyan." "Is that so?" My gaze bore into Yang Wanfu. Yang Wanfu had no choice but to nod. "Yes. So Lord Chapter let his own mistress meet privately with you alone?" "Of course not. Chapter Qing is also at Xiangyun Temple. He is the one who brought Miss Yang here." Madam Chen said, "Since Lord Chapter is also here, whether it is true or false, we'll know once we call him over to ask." Chapter Qing was indeed at Xiangyun Temple, and was quickly summoned. Madam Chen asked Chapter Qing, "Is Yang Wanfu really your woman?" Chapter Qing glanced at Wayun and smiled awkwardly at me and Madam Chen. Ashamed. A trace of smugness flashed in Wayun's eyes. He and Chapter Qing had no friendship on the surface. He thought I didn't know that last year when Chapter Qing got drunk and said the wrong thing in front of the 5th prince. It was he who helped cover it up. He had done Chapter Qing a favor. Chapter Qing's reputation had never been good. It was just a mistress. Acknowledging her for his benefactor wasn't anything difficult. But he didn't know that Chapter Qing's fiancée, Xia Luan, was from Luzhou, lived next door to my maternal grandfather's family. And before I turned 10, I played with Xia Luan almost every day. Chapter Qing's appearance at Xiangyun Temple today was also my doing. I coughed lightly, and Xia Luan walked out from behind Madam Chen. She looked at Zhang Qing with disappointment and said, "Young Master Zhang, you told me before that you had cut ties with all those warblers and swallows outside, and I believed you. Only today do I realize you were lying to me all along. Saying you were fond of me, turns out those were just empty words. Since that is the case, let's call off our engagement." Zhang Qing was instantly dumbfounded. He hastily explained. "Aluan, don't overthink it. I didn't lie to you. I really did cut ties completely." "Then what about her? How do you explain that?" Xia Luan pointed at Yang Wanfu. "You just admitted with your own mouth that she is your mistress." As she spoke, she pulled the wooden hairpin from her head and threw it on the ground. Your thing, take it back yourself. Tomorrow I am returning to Luzhou, and from now on we're done. She. Zhang Qing picked up the obviously hand-carved wooden hairpin, frantically trying to stuff it back into Xi Luan's hands. Seeing that Xi Luan refused to take it and looked like she was about to turn and leave, he immediately said through gritted teeth, "When did I ever say she was a mistress I kept? What I meant when I answered Madame Chen and Madame Shen was that she came with me. But between her and me, there is no relationship whatsoever." Xi Luan looked up at Zhang Qing. Encouraged, Zhang Qing spoke more and more smoothly. "She is actually a courtesan from Zhuhong Pavilion. You know I love poetry. Before I met you, I saw her at Zhuhong Pavilion, and we discussed poetry and literature together. But I promise, I have nothing to do with her. She is a Qingguan Ren from Zhuhong Pavilion, who has always sold her art but never her body. General Wei is devoted to Madame Shen, and has never been to a place like Zhuhong Pavilion, so he didn't know about this. When I heard General Wei was looking for help from the Yang family, I thought of her, so I went and brought her here." "Really?" Xi Luan raised an eyebrow. Zhang Qing held up 3 fingers. "Luan, trust me, I've really changed." Xi Luan let him off and turned to ask Yang Wanfu, "Are you really a Qingguan Ren from Zhuhong Pavilion?" Yang Wanfu's eyes reddened with grievance. She glanced at me and said softly and weakly, "Miss Xi, ending up in a brothel was not my wish. I was once a young lady from an official's family. If I weren't still pure, how could I have lived until now? So Miss Yang has the quality of remaining unstained, despite being in the mud." I sneered. "Then let's have someone check Miss Yang's pulse, so Luan can be at ease." Yiluo is joking. This is Xiangyun Temple. Having a doctor from the temple examine whether Yang Wanfu is still a virgin would be too disrespectful. Wayun said dryly. "Naturally, there is no need to trouble the temple physician." I turned and pulled the hand of a lady beside Madame Chen to introduce her. "This is Madame Li before she married. She served as a female physician in the Empress's palace. Whether Yang Wanfu is still a virgin, she'll know with one examination." Wei Shun's face turned ashen. "You were prepared all along," I said in a flat tone. Everyone knows that the abbot of Xiangyun Temple is deeply versed in Buddhist teachings, and it is quite rare to hear him preach. Today was originally Madame Chen bringing the ladies to hear the abbot's sermon. When she heard I wanted to pray for Jier's blessings, she kindly added a cushion for me. These ladies were all carefully selected by me. Apart from Xi Luan, Madame Chen, and Madame Li, the remaining 3 were famous gossips in the capital. When I learned of Wei Shun's betrayal, I sought help from Madame Chen and Xi Luan. I didn't need to worry about the rest. They would handle everything for me. With things having come to this point, Wei Shun was helpless. A maid stepped forward and dragged the unwilling Yang Wanfu to Madame Li. Soon, Madame Li sneered, and she still pretends to be a pure courtesan, only good for deceiving those foolish rich marks. This woman orchestrated a public exposure at a Buddhist temple in front of the capital's biggest gossips. Yang Wanfu thought she was untouchable as Wei Shun's secret mistress, but Yiluo dragged her reputation through the mud so thoroughly that even street vendors were bragging about patronizing her. The brilliance. Yiluo never had to say a word herself. She just set the stage and let society do the shredding. That is not revenge, that is art. Xi Luan flew into a rage, rushed forward and slapped Yang Wanfu across the face. "A criminal's daughter, now nothing but a cheap whore ridden by 10,000 men. Yet you dare put on airs in front of me and conspire with my fiancé to deceive me." The surrounding ladies also chattered and pointed fingers. "Minister Zhang, what is so good about this slut? Why would you throw away your engagement with Miss Xi for her sake? But we really haven't heard of Minister Zhang having an affair with anyone recently. Perhaps he truly has reformed and isn't lying. Then Minister Zhang was simply deceived by this slut. Yang Wanfu really is something after all. She came from a scholarly family, the legitimate daughter of the Vice Minister of Rights. She used to be so proud, yet she actually allowed herself to fall to this state. She has brought shame to the Yang family ancestors." Zhang Qing was being pulled and interrogated by Xi Luan, while Yang Wanfu was besieged by a group of madams. Wei Shun was so anxious that the corners of his eyes turned red, but he could only hold back and not let it show. I looked at him and smiled, saying, "It is a good thing you never go to brothels. Otherwise today even 10 mouths wouldn't be enough to explain yourself. You've always found such filthy trash too dirty to even look at. So she has fallen to that kind of place. Back then you even said you'd kill her with your own hands to avenge me. Now it seems she is getting her own comeuppance. No need for you to lift a finger, after all that commotion. Monk Hanyan was finally brought back to the general's manor by Wayun. Unfortunately, he didn't understand poison curses either. What made him slightly better than other physicians was that besides prescribing medicine, he could also chant sutras. Wei Wenji still hadn't woken up. Wayun's eyes were red-rimmed, and he was having trouble maintaining his pretense around me, becoming somewhat impatient. Back at the Northwest military camp, his patience wasn't as good as mine. I tucked in the corner of the blanket for Wei Wenji, then suddenly looked up at him and said, "If you'd known Monk Hanyan would be so useless, you shouldn't have gone to beg Yang Wanfu. You caused Minister Jiang to get dragged into this for nothing." Wayun said nothing. I continued, "Brothels are filthy as hell. Once you are tainted, your reputation is ruined for life." Wayun's face turned ashen. "Yeluo, you've always been the kindest. Yang Wanfu wronged you, but she is already in this state. Why mock her further? She was wrong back then, but her nature isn't bad." "Ah, Shun," I laughed. "Who told you I was kind? I've never been kind. I always repay grievances." Wayun looked at me with disappointment. I continued, "She has already become a prostitute. What does my little mockery matter? Words are like cold blades and frosty swords. There is far more humiliation waiting for her." Wayun was left speechless. He flicked his sleeves and left, heading to Red Mountain Street again. In the residence on Red Mountain Street, Yang Wanfu was crying and trying to hang herself. After being rescued by Wayun, she collapsed crying into his arms. "It must be that bitch Shen Yeluo scheming against me." Wayun hesitated before speaking. "It shouldn't be her. Shen Yeluo didn't know of your existence before. What happened at Chongshan Temple was just a coincidence." Yang Wanfu pushed Wayun away. "Can't you see? Yesterday at Chongshan Temple, from labeling me a whore to establishing my unchastity as fact, she was directing it all. She already hates you. In that situation, it is perfectly normal for her to target you. Besides, if she knew you were my concubine with her temperament, how could she let me off?" Yang Wanfu was furious. "Wayun, you keep speaking up for her everywhere. Do you still have feelings for her in your heart? You said you loved me. Were you lying to me all along?" She looked utterly miserable as she said, "You don't even know, but now everyone outside is saying that the legitimate daughter of the Vice Minister of Rights shamelessly became a whore, and those shameless men who weren't even worthy of carrying my shoes before are now bragging everywhere, telling people they've patronized me at the Vermilion Tower. If you don't love me, I might as well die." Wayun quickly held her and coaxed her. "I know best what kind of person you are. I would never believe the rumors outside. My feelings for you can be witnessed by heaven and earth. The reason I haven't fallen out with her is first, because she has shown me kindness, and second, because her father still has students serving as officials at court. I was thinking of dealing with it gradually to prevent her from taking desperate measures. Now that she has hurt you, I won't keep her around anymore. Jir is unconscious and needs care from you, his birth mother." Yang Wanfu's tears turned to laughter. As I listened to Shui Ying's report, I couldn't help but sneer. I want to see just what method they'll use to get rid of me. When Wayun returned, he brought me candied fruits from East Street. I spent my childhood at my maternal grandfather's home in Luzhou, and my tastes followed theirs, so I didn't like sweets. But 7 years ago, after being stabbed, I had to drink bitter medicine daily and really couldn't swallow it. So Wayun brought me a packet of candied fruits every day. Later, when I no longer needed to take medicine, the habit of eating 2 pieces of candied fruit daily remained. Wayun brought me preserved fruit, meaning he wanted to make peace with me. I smiled at him and said, "There is progress with Jair's illness. Divine Dr. Zhang has a junior apprentice who has traveled widely and is very knowledgeable. He says it is soul separation syndrome. He is confident he can cure Jir. He is prescribed medicine that costs 20 taels of silver per Dalton Y. After 1 or 2 months of treatment, he should wake up." Wayun was overjoyed. Money doesn't matter, as long as he can wake up. Wei Wenji was his only child, extremely important in his heart. Yes, money doesn't matter. I thought about my own scheme, repeating his words. By the evening of the 2nd day, Xieluan brought me news. Her father worked in the Ministry of Justice. He said a gang of bandits had recently appeared in the capital, committing burglaries and carrying several murder cases on their backs. Today they tracked down shopkeeper Shu, who was fencing stolen goods for them, and discovered that Wayun was actually in contact with shopkeeper Shu. Her father, knowing Wayun was my husband, suppressed the matter and had her come ask me what was going on. I suddenly understood, so he wanted to hire assassins to kill me. For someone who was a general, his scheming was surprisingly crude. I told Shiluan about Wayun and Yang Wanfu's plan. Ziluan sneered. That heartless bastard truly has the heart of a wolf and lungs of a dog. Even if you threw him into a vat of boiling oil, it wouldn't be excessive. Yiluo, what do you want to do? Ziluan was naturally trustworthy. I wouldn't lose trust in all my friends because of one disloyal man. Therefore, I told Shiluan my plan. Then I said, Wayun has wronged me by draining the Wei family's wealth. I am collecting interest from him. I originally planned to have people from the Shen family estate do this, but now that he wants to hire assassins, I wonder if Uncle Shi could lend me a few of his loyal men. Ziluan smiled and said, Back in Luzhou, if it weren't for you, Shi Ming and I would have drowned. My father is grateful for your kindness, so he will definitely cooperate with you on this matter. Ziluan left in a hurry. After the evening meal, 10 tall, burly men with light footsteps changed into servants' clothes and hid in various corners of Qinghuan courtyard where I lived. After waiting 2 days, I received news from Shiluan. He then knew that Wayun had already negotiated with the bandits, and they would act soon. On this day, Wayun suddenly said there was an urgent matter at the government office that required him to make a trip. Before he left, when he looked at me, his eyes seemed to hide a venomous snake flicking its tongue. I smiled as I saw him off. That night, a major incident occurred at the general's manor, yet the servants snored like thunder. I drank tea all night in Qinghuan courtyard. The next morning, the awakened servants stumbled and crawled all the way to the government office to report the case. Wayun, his face full of grief, rushed back in a hurry. Yiluo, you must be all right. He was already wailing before even entering the main gate. When he saw me sitting perfectly fine in Qinghuan courtyard, his wailing stopped abruptly, like a chicken being strangled by the neck. You are disappointed that nothing happened to me. I looked at him. Wayun froze in place, panic flashing across his face. Finally, he said calmly, How could that be? It is better than anything that Yiluo is fine. I looked at him with a meaningful gaze and said regretfully, I don't know why, but everyone slept very soundly last night. Fortunately, no one was hurt, but all the valuable items in the estate were emptied out. Wayun. I stretched out one hand and held it out in front of Wayun. Wayun didn't understand. What for? I said matter-of-factly. For silver, of course. Jiar's medicine costs 20 taels of silver every day. The food and drink for so many people in the estate. And in a few days it is Buddha's birthday. The social exchanges with other households. Which of these doesn't require silver to manage? Aren't there still the shops and estates? Jiar's illness is so severe. I heard there is a divine physician valley in Jiangyan. A couple days ago I mortgaged all the shops and estates in the household, wanting to take Jiar to the divine physician valley to seek treatment. But before I could tell you, divine physician Zhang's junior brother happened to return to the capital. The shops and estates haven't been redeemed yet, and the mortgage documents were stolen by the thieves. Your dowry. He hesitated as he spoke. What makes you think that thieves who cleaned out all the household's wealth would specifically leave behind my dowry? You don't have any money on you either. If not, I'll go out and borrow money. Once the Ministry of Justice learns that the General's manor has fallen into such dire straits, they'll definitely intensify their efforts to capture the bandits, and then all our money will come back. As soon as these words came out, Wayun immediately untied the money pouch from his waist and gave it to me. He was both afraid that I'd go out borrowing money and embarrass him, and afraid that investigating the bandits would lead back to him. In the days that followed, whenever Wayun returned to the manor, I'd ask him for money. It was still a long time before salary day, so how much money could he have on him? I held Wei Wenji's critical illness over him, so Wayun had no choice but to give me money. Therefore, he kept taking money from Yang Wanfu's hands. Yang Wanfu was originally unwilling, but that group of bandits was introduced to Wayun by her. Yang Wanfu had long been in contact with Minister Yang, who was exiled, and Wayun promised her that once he dealt with me and Yang Wanfu became the mistress of the general's manor, he would find a way to bring the Yang family back. Among that group of bandits was someone Minister Yang had met in the place of exile. Seeing Wayun agree to make a move against me, Yang Wanfu immediately recommended him. No, the bandits had taken Wayun's payment, but not only failed to kill me, they also took away all the general manor's possessions. What difference was this from inviting a wolf into the house? Yang Wanfu had been feeling somewhat guilty facing Wei Shun during this time. She had no choice but to take out the money Wei Shun had given her before, one by one, and give it back to Wei Shun to support the household. Since she could give, I no longer held back and asked for more and more. Gradually, Yang Wanfu couldn't keep up anymore. Plus, scandalous rumors about her in the capital grew more and more, at first with playboy sons. Then even peddlers and laborers got involved. Yang Wanfu found this extremely humiliating. Her heart was bitter, so she had more and more quarrels with Wei Shun. I moved all the money and wealth from the general's manor to the Shen family's old residence, and the group of bandits arranged by Wei Shun and Yang Wanfu are currently being detained by Uncle Shi. My plan was to wait until I drained all the money from Yang Wanfu's hands, then have Uncle Xia bring those bandits to court and expose Wei Shun's ugly face to the public. After completely ruining Wei Shun's reputation, I would then propose a divorce. However, before I could act, things took a new turn. Yang Wanfu didn't have much silver left on hand, so Wei Shun started selling off her jewelry. Wei Shun worried about money every day, and when he went to Hongshan Street, Yang Wanfu's crying and fussing gave him a headache. Every day he wore a weary face, looking utterly haggard. Just then, the court decided to completely resolve the Japanese pirate problem along the southeast coast, but couldn't decide who to send on the expedition. The Great Yan Dynasty's soldiers weren't skilled in naval warfare, so no one dared to stick their neck out. Wei Shun was in court, either spacing out or dozing off from lack of rest. When someone called his name, he stepped forward and accepted. By the time he realized it, everything had already been decided. He had no room left for regret. Just like with Yang Wanfu's matter, from the moment he escorted the Yang family to their exile destination, there was no turning back once the arrow left the bow. Wei Shun had established outstanding military achievements in the northwest back then, and was considered a famous general of Great Yan, but he was the only heir for 3 generations of the Wei family, so His Majesty had no intention of sending him to fight the pirates. Now that he had volunteered himself, His Majesty was extremely grateful and bestowed upon him generous rewards. Wei Shun quietly kept more than half of the rewards hidden, and sent them to Hongshan Street, handing over the rest to me. He played the emotional card with me. "Luo, we've been married for over 7 years, and our relationship has always been good. If there has been any friction lately, it is just bickering. In my heart, I love you as much as ever. You can't have children, but I've never used that against you. Although Jia is an adopted son, you and I will depend on him for the rest of our lives. I am leaving now, and I don't know when I'll return. When that time comes, lock the doors and take good care of Jia. I hope when I come back, Jia will have fully recovered." At the same time, he didn't forget to make promises. "Yiluo, just wait. When I return victorious, I'll definitely petition for an official title for you in the Golden Throne Hall." I nodded. "Leave the household matters to me, you can rest assured." Seeing that I agreed, Wei Shun immediately claimed he still had official duties to hand over and left. He couldn't wait to go to Hongshan Street. That is where the person he wanted to accompany more was. The next morning, Shuiying told me that Wei Shun had spent the night entangled with Yang Wanfu on Hongshan Street. He promised Yang Wanfu that he would forge ahead bravely and slay all the Japanese pirates. When he earned military merit, he would use it to petition the sovereign to pardon the Yang family's crimes, bring back Minister Yang and the others to Shengjing, and then marry her in with great fanfare. In their vision of the future, I, the legitimate wife and mistress of the household, was already as good as dead. I sneered endlessly. Wei Shun forgot that he had never fought a naval battle. He also forgot that this was the first time he went on campaign without me. His female Zhuge, by his side, earned military merit. I'd say he'll either become a deserter or leave his life in the sea. I went to the Xia family to visit Uncle Shi. Though he was from the Ministry of Justice, his high position allowed him to meddle in matters of the Ministry of War as well. I requested that he arrange a military supervisor for this expedition's army. On this trip, Wei Shun would either earn military merit or die there. He absolutely could not become a deserter. If he earned military merit, I would have those bandits expose Wei Shun, let him be reviled by all, and then divorce him. If he died there, I would be the widow of a loyal martyr, and the general's manor would henceforth be inherited by me. I no longer had parents to shelter me, and society was harsh on women. Divorce was the inferior option for me. Wei Shun dying in battle was the superior option. On the 23rd of May, Wei Shun's army set out. I went to the city gate and watched him leave. His back was straight. his posture the same as when our troops returned to the capital in triumph. These 7 or 8 years had left no trace on him whatsoever. But I was already riddled with wounds. When a man is infatuated, he can still break free. When a woman is infatuated, she cannot break free. Men and women are inherently different. After Wayun left, I returned to the general's manor and searched through Wayun's study until I found the property deed for that residence on Hongshan Street. Yang Wanfu was not of good status, so she couldn't own property under her name. Therefore, Wayun's name was written on the deed. I invited Censor Chen's wife and brought people along, making our way to Hongshan Street in grand fashion. Yang Wanfu had also gone to see Wayun off. By the time she returned, we were already sitting in the courtyard drinking tea. I told her that this residence belonged to Wayun, and that she could live here probably because Wayun was giving face to Minister Zhang. But Shi Luan was my close friend, and I couldn't watch Minister Zhang make a mistake and betray Shi Luan, so I had to take the residence back. Yang Wanfu's eyes turned red with anger, but in front of the censor's wife for Wayun's sake, she ultimately didn't dare speak plainly, didn't dare say she wasn't a courtesan, didn't dare say she had nothing to do with Zhongqing, didn't dare say this residence was bought by Wayun for her to live in. A beauty's tears could move one's soul, but the person who could play the hero and save the damsel was no longer here. Yang Wanfu was stared at by many eyes, packed up a small bundle, and was driven out of the mansion, utterly humiliated. The gold, silver, pearl jewelry, clothes that Wayun had prepared for her, and the palace rewards secretly sent over. She couldn't take any of it with her. I felt truly delighted inside, and invited Madame Chen to have dinner at Helen Tower. Drinking 2 cups of light wine, coming out of Helen Tower, after seeing Madame Chen onto her carriage, I looked at my own carriage and said to Shuang, "Let's walk for a bit, get some fresh air." The wind in May was already somewhat warm, reminding me of the day I married Wayun. That day he had been made to drink a lot of wine, and under the red candlelight, his eyes looking at me were bright and sparkling, filled with joy at marrying me. He had loved me. It is just that he fell in love with Yang Wanfu. Even now, I still can't figure out how a person's heart can change so quickly, how someone can fall for another, and wish for their original wife to die. But it doesn't matter if I can't figure it out. I have the means to protect myself. The person who did wrong isn't me, and the person who is going to die isn't me either. Shuang stayed by my side, reporting to me in a low voice. After Yang Wanfu left Hongshan Street, she went to pawn the bracelet on her hand. When she came out of the pawn shop, a little beggar rushed up and hugged her leg. She kicked the person away in disgust, then smashed the little beggar's head with a stone. She told the patrolling officer that it was a little thief. After that, she rented a small courtyard in Qinglin Alley and settled down there, probably planning to wait there for the general to return. I know about that bracelet on Yang Wanfu's hand. 3 years ago, Wayun gave me an identical one. In other words, at least 3 years ago, my position in Wayun's heart was already no more important than Yang Wanfu's. When I drove Yang Wanfu away, I deliberately didn't have the maids remove her bracelet. First give someone hope, then tear that hope apart. That is what truly destroys the heart. I smiled and said, "Have someone keep an eye on her. If there is no unusual activity, leave her alone." On the day Wayun went on his campaign, Wei Wenji woke up, but his face was covered with dense red rashes, making it inconvenient to see people. The next day, I took Wei Wenji to stay at the Fengshan Villa. The scenery there was pleasant, suitable for recuperation. Everyone outside said I was a good mother, treating Wei Wenji better than if he were my own, even though he wasn't. No one knew that I had selected a group of clever and well-mannered little boys of similar age from orphanages around the country, and raised them at the Fengshan Villa. I secretly hired civil and martial arts teachers to instruct them. I allow them to call me Mother. When they grow up in the future, I'll arrange for them to take the imperial examinations, or work in the businesses under my name. The most outstanding one will receive Wei Wenji's identity and inherit the general's manor. I drove Yang Wanfu out of Hongshan Street. She suspected I knew about her secret with Wayun, but hearing that I treated Wei Wenji extremely well, and personally accompanied Wei Wenji to Fengshan Villa to recuperate, she thought I was still kept in the dark. She spent every night in anxiety, waiting day after day for Wayun's victorious return. Once Wayun returns, everything will be fine. Unfortunately, Wayun will never return. On the 15th of July, the Hungry Ghost Festival, when the gates of hell open, news of Wayun's death reached the capital. For Yang Wanfu's sake, He fought bravely in every battle, but he was ultimately not skilled in naval warfare, and his strategies were crude and full of holes. Therefore, after arriving at the southeastern coast, he kept suffering small defeats. The court had high hopes for him, thinking he was just getting practice, and that after some time he'd be able to handle the pirates. However, on the 7th of July, he received a letter from the capital. During the battle against the enemy, he became reckless. He thought he was a righteous army, invincible, but ended up suffering a major defeat, got hit by an arrow, and fell into the sea. He could swim, but a small river ditch is different from the vast ocean. By the time his soldiers pulled him onto the ship, he was beyond saving. The letter Wayun received was sent to the capital by express courier, along with the military report by the supervising officer. The battle report was sent to the palace, and that letter was delivered into my hands. This is the ultimate, let them destroy themselves move. Yiluo didn't need to hire assassins or poison him. She just made sure Yang Wanfu's desperate letter reached Wayun at the perfect moment. His love for Yang Wanfu made him reckless, and he literally died trying to be her hero. The irony, Yang Wanfu's own words killed the man she loved. Yiluo just forwarded the mail. Cold, calculated, and absolutely devastating. It was a letter Yang Wanfu wrote to Wayun. In the letter, she said I had driven her out of Hongshan Street the very day Wayun left the capital, talked about how hard it was for her living alone in Qinglin Alley, said she was a whore in everyone's eyes, and now without protection how the men in the capital were harassing her. The Yang Wanfu in the letter desperately needed Wayun to save her. No wonder Wayun suddenly became so reckless. Holding the letter, I went to Qinglin Alley. In Qinglin Alley, sure enough, there were idle men loitering at Yang Wanfu's door. When they saw me arrive, their unfriendly gazes fell on me, but seeing the attendants behind me, they immediately withdrew their stares, hunched over, and slunk away. I had my attendants kick open Yang Wanfu's courtyard gate and walked in. Yang Wanfu was shocked and terrified, looking at me with a face full of fear. Mrs. Shen, I rented this place myself. I know. I smiled at her. I am here to tell you about Wayun's death. Yang Wanfu let out a shriek. What did you say? Who died? I tossed the letter in front of Yang Wanfu and said with a smile, someone as disloyal as him should have died long ago. But I have to thank you. If not for this letter of yours, I would have had to find an opportunity to deal with him myself. Now it is good. He is dead. He is a loyal martyr, and all the compensation for a loyal martyr will fall on me, the general's wife. First you endangered my life, injured my womb. Then you stole my husband, poisoned me, and now contributing this effort for my livelihood in the latter half of my life is what you should do. Yang Wanfu clutched that letter and collapsed to the ground, her voice trembling. You knew all along. When did you find out? The day before Wei Wenji fell ill, I suppose, I answered her truthfully. A beautiful face, completely drained of color. Yang Wanfu finally understood that her and Wayun's crude schemes were nothing but a joke in my eyes. They had lost completely. She immediately began crying and laughing, her expression becoming crazed. Both she and I knew clearly in our hearts that she was completely without hope. So what? She gritted her teeth, glaring at me with hateful eyes. You think you've won, you can't bear children. In the end, it is still all for nothing. So what if I can't bear children? Wei Wenji will be the pillar of the Wei household. He'll fight for my imperial mandate, making me the most honorable widow in the great Yan dynasty. Yang Wanfu's expression immediately became smug. What makes you think so? You caused Jire's father's death. He'll only hate you. I smiled and said, Yang Wanfu, do you know, when Wayun and I were arguing, Wayun said that although you did wrong things, you are kind-hearted by nature. When he said you were kind in front of me, the implication was that I wasn't kind enough. I don't understand. Where are you kinder than me? That day when you came out of the pawn shop, that little beggar who was sick hugged your leg and called you mother. The money you got from pawning your bracelet was just enough to cure his illness, but you smashed his head with a stone and told the patrolling officers he was a little thief. Such a small child thrown into prison by the officers became a corpse that very night. Yang Wanfu, tell me, if that little beggar had a mother, would she be heartbroken? Yang Wanfu's expression froze. She instantly went mad. Lunged forward, grabbed the hem of my skirt. Incoherent. Number. Tell me it is not true, Jire. It is not. I looked at his face. It was all festering. He was just an unwanted little beggar. He couldn't be Jire. I said nothing, just smiled at her. Yang Wanfu broke down screaming. "Ladies," I gasped out loud. Yeluo didn't just take away Yang Wanfu's son, she made her kill him herself without even knowing it. The poetic justice is bone-chilling. Yang Wanfu spent years scheming to replace Yeluo as the real mother, only to realize she murdered her own child in a moment of cruelty. This is the kind of revenge that doesn't just hurt, it haunts. Yeluo didn't lift a finger, just let karma do the heavy lifting with a little nudge. At this moment, the bone-cutting and marrow-digging pain I felt when I learned the truth was finally released. Coming out of Qinglin Alley, the setting sun shone on me. I looked down at my hands, clean and spotless. I didn't die back then, and now I won't take Yang Wanfu's life either. She lost everything she relied on, and for her, living was more painful than death. Without Wei Shun's protection, no money in hand, and her reputation ruined. She would rot and stink in this Qinglin Alley. Wei Shun, from the moment he gave me the 1,000 days' joy, he deserved to die, and I only 29 years old without them. My future is nothing but a brilliant open road. 2 months later, Wei Shun's corpse was returned to the capital. The weather was hot, and he had already rotted beyond recognition. I had someone send it to Qinglin Alley the moment Yang Wanfu saw it. She vomited in disgust. After this, Yang Wanfu began taking clients in Qinglin Alley. I don't know if it was to make her life less impoverished, or to cling to the powerful for revenge against me, but in a place like Qinglin Alley, aside from me, no powerful person would set foot there. She was too stupid if it was for revenge. Doing this would only trap herself at the bottom. I had someone keep an eye on her. A year later, a female corpse appeared in the moat. The feelings of my youth, at this moment, finally came to an ugly end. Can we just take a moment to appreciate the sheer intelligence of Shen Yeluo? This woman didn't scream, didn't beg, didn't even confront her husband directly. She played the long game. She drained his finances, destroyed his mistress's reputation, orchestrated his downfall on the battlefield, and walked away as a wealthy, respected widow with an imperial title, all while her enemies thought they were winning. What makes this story so satisfying is that Yeluo never became the villain. She didn't kill anyone with her own hands. She just removed her protection and let the consequences of their actions catch up to them. Wei Shun died because of his own recklessness. Yang Wanfu destroyed herself through her own cruelty. Yeluo simply made sure the dominoes fell in the right order. And that ending, chef's kiss. She is 29, wealthy, free, and unbothered. While Yang Wanfu rots in an alley, that is not just revenge, that is a glow-up. Now I need to hear from you in the comments. The revenge scale, on a scale of 1 to 10, how satisfying was Yeluo's revenge? Was it too much? Or perfectly justified? The husband, did Wei Shun deserve a chance to explain? Or was he beyond redemption the moment he started poisoning her? Cold versus hot revenge. Do you prefer Yeluo's icy, calculated takedown? Or do you wish she'd confronted them directly? Don't forget to like and subscribe for more ancient drama. Remember, ladies, the best revenge is living well, and maybe a little strategic planning. Love you all.